Hello. Today we're going to be talking about my short time as a Division 1 athlete. First off, I want to say that I regret absolutely nothing about this experience. I have no hatred or anything towards the school or football program of Washington State, which was the school that I played football for. I'm still a very big fan of Washington State and all the players that go there and everything, so there's absolutely no hatred or anything. I know why I was not on the team or anything like that. Before we start that whole story, we're going to talk about high school and even before that. For as long as I can remember, I wanted to be in the NFL. It was the only thing that I was really passionate about. I wasn't passionate about school. I wasn't passionate about anything else other than going to the NFL and becoming an NFL player. While we're talking about my high school time, I'll show some highlights of my amazing performance at Bellevue High School. I love my time playing for Bellevue High School, and for those of you that don't know, Bellevue High School has a really good football program. At one point, they were number one in the nation, and they had a very long winning streak going on for 5+ years where they did not lose a game to any other team in conference, out of conference, or out of state. Bellevue High School has pushed me further than I have ever been pushed at that moment in my life of early high school when I did join the team my freshman year. But it was rough because my freshman year we did lose our first state championship and thus breaking the streak that we had. And then sophomore year we lost again in the state championship to the same team that we previously lost our winning streak to. My junior year, we didn't even get to go to the playoffs because there were some allegations against the program, which I don't really know anything about, so I'm not going to speak about it by any means. And then senior year, we lost in the semifinals by an extra point. And that hurts because the team that beat us blew out the other semifinalist winner to win state. So I'm confident we would have been able to win state if we won that game. So I'm kind of taking it as we lost state by missing an extra point in like double or triple overtime. And then this last season, Bellevue High School won the state championship again. So that hurts, but still go Wolverines. And as my time there, I was not the most athletic or physically gifted person. I was 5'10", around 155, probably a little lighter than that. I ran high 440s, probably like a 4.9, which for those of you that don't know, defensive linemen a lot of them can run faster than that. I started one high school football game over that period of time of my 3 years on varsity and JV, and that was just because it was senior night, and I think it's because the coaches felt bad because I had not started a game before that, and I did not get a lot of playing time because I was not that physically gifted. But my junior year there, I did decide to go to the Washington State University football combine, which is basically a scouting process that Washington State and a lot of colleges put on to just test and see which high schoolers they want to recruit and go after. And so once I didn't get a call back or anything from that, I wasn't expecting too much. It was kind of a hope. But once not getting called back, I still decided on going to Washington State University for college. And my whole freshman year, I was just set on walking on to the team to prove to myself that I could do it and just to keep this dream alive because it is truly what I wanted to do, and I wanted to become like a underdog story. My freshman year of college, I was probably in the weight room and or training for football 4 to 5 hours a day. I'd wake up around 5:45, hit the weight room, do more endurance-based exercises around 1 hour, and then I'd go to class, and then after class I would be in the weight room for a solid 3 hours. Then I would walk down to the field for another hour of conditioning and speed training. That freshman year I worked my ass off. Everything my freshman year was focused on getting me in the best shape for the walk-on tryout. I gained my freshman year 25 pounds, and that was a very big deal for me because I had to eat 4 meals a day because I'm not the type of person that gains weight quickly, so I had to almost force feed myself 4 meals a day. I ran out of our resident dining money for the whole semester around the time where midterms happened. So, and that was the highest meal plan that they had. So there was a lot of money forked in from my parents to keep my diet going, and I had to find ways around making that work. I had to eat two sub sandwiches a day because doing the math, that's the most amount of food that I could put on a meal that is still relatively cheap. And going into the tryouts, I've gotten my numbers up a lot from high school. From where I was benching in high school, I was probably benching around 205. I got that up to 250. I got my 40 time, which was like a 4.9 down to a 4.64. And then there was the tryout day. I was very excited going into this tryout, but earlier in the week, I got a fever. So I went to the tryout. I was on a lot of drugs going into the tryout just because I had to be in the best possible shape and headspace I could possibly be in, and having a fever is not good for that. And with the tryout, it was just they gassed the hell out of you. They had a very long, extensive warm-up period, which is basically used just to tire you out, and then they would take your numbers on everything. They took the 40 time, they took a shuttle, they had you racing a lot of people, doing a lot of different tasks that were just made to gas you out to see how much endurance you actually had. I remember after that just sitting down on the field and my legs were dead. They were absolute jello. It was hard for me to even get back to my dorm. That's how hard they worked us. And they told us that that Wednesday they would have the people who made it up. There were, I think, around 30 people that went through the tryout process. And I didn't think I was too much more athletic than a lot of them, but I was still having my hopes up, even though that there was doubts in the back of my head. And the week went by because the tryout was on, I think, a Saturday, and they said by Wednesday that they would have the numbers up. And so the week went by, and it just was the slowest few days of my life, just because I was just anticipating and getting really excited, nervous, and a lot of emotions to get my results back. And then the day came. It was Wednesday. I had a class before they posted who made it, because they said that they would post it around noon. I had a class at like 10:25 until noon. And so the whole class, I did not pay attention. I didn't learn anything. It was a long class, but no, there was nothing there. I went, but there was no retention actually that came out of that class. And after the class, I went over to the football facility, and they said they would just have the people who made it on a piece of paper on the receptionist's desk. And I walked in, I looked at the desk, I kind of walked closer, and I saw my name with 3 other people's, and I just stared at it. And I stared at this probably for 30 seconds, and to the point where the receptionist lady was looking at me very concerned and kind of confused. Like, she looked very weirded out by it, just because I was so baffled, because I'd never thought in my wildest dreams that something like this would happen to me. And so I was just filled with like this relief, this happiness. It's like this was the I made it moment. And I remember I walked off to like a side hall in the football facility, where it was just like the closest place where I could be kind of alone. And I called my mom, and we just bawled together. It was amazing. She was happy for me. I was happy for me. It was a great, that's probably the greatest feeling I've ever felt in my life, was just knowing that all my hard work paid off for something. And once I got there, they put us through a physical process where they just tested us physically to make sure that we were capable of playing college football, and that we weren't just going to die on the field or have like an underlying injury that might cause any problems playing at this high level. So they checked like our heart rates, they checked our flexibility, our balance. They had us take a whole bunch of concussion tests. But after that week went by, they basically gave us our shoulder pads, helmets, all of our equipment that we needed, gave us the name of our position coaches and the time of the first practice. And that was basically everything that they told us. So the first day, I was very confused on what was going on and what the whole process was, and I was a lot more shy at that time, so I didn't really ask too many people like, hey, what's going on? Like, what should I expect and everything like that. So I walk out onto our practice field at the time that's supposed to be starting, probably like 30 minutes before, actually, just because there was no way I was going to be late to that. And I just asked the first person I see, like, hey, do you know this coach? Because this is my position coach. And he was like, oh, yeah, I have the same position coach. We're just over here. And that person was actually Travell Harris, who is going into the NFL draft this year, which is insane to think about. But I'm extremely proud. He probably does not remember me at all, but he was a very nice person. And yeah, so he showed me to where we were supposed to start our warm-ups, and I can't believe I haven't said this before, but I was a slot receiver. So we were the small, fast, quick guys on the field for this team. And yeah, so we went through basically a pretty normal practice day. It was kind of resembling, it wasn't unfamiliar to me just because high school football, it wasn't anything too extreme. But at the end of the day, as a Division I, especially college football team, they do not care about walk-ons. I knew this going into it, but you are essentially just a practice dummy, and you're made to just be hit and work out the position opposite of you. So I was with the cornerbacks and safeties a lot. I didn't really have too much time with the actual inside receiving group just because I was with the defensive backs a lot of the times, and I got yelled at a lot. I got a lot of praise at times. It was a very up and down practice period for me. Through that practice period, I actually got injured a lot more than I've ever been injured in my life. I sprained both frontal deltoids. One of them was actually a re-sprain. I sprained that one badly in high school. But I re-sprained it probably 3 times throughout the process of college. I sprained my other one. I sprained my MCL. I blacked out for a bit after getting hit, but they just gave me a quick little concussion test. I don't think I was concussed, but it was definitely weird blacking out for the first time and then be like, no, we're good. But yeah, with the MCL injury that usually keeps people out for 6 weeks in the NFL, just it's a pretty serious injury. I remember when I did it, it felt weird. Like my knee bent in because an offensive lineman rolled up onto it by accident. And like every single motion for that time on was just like weird and weak. Like I could run and everything after stretching it out a bit, but it was extremely weak and it felt just off. They knew I sprained my MCL after going to the trainers immediately after, and they were like, just keep moving. Just keep moving, because if you slow down or anything like that, it will swell up and you will not be able to finish practice. And so I finished practice. It was very weird experience for me. I went back to my dorm and I slept, and while I slept it swelled, and once I got out of bed, my kneecap, or where my kneecap should be, there was probably a half an inch of swelling, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it bubbled, and I could not bend it, I could not move it at all, and that was an extremely weird process for me to go through, just because, like, I don't know, I was like, I've never been injured like this before, to where it actually swelled up like that, because it's a pretty serious injury. And the next day, I hobbled to the athletic trainers, and they just kind of looked at me like, that's not good. But I was told if I missed a practice, that's basically the same thing as getting cut. If you're a walk-on and you can't do the one thing that you're assigned to do, and since you weren't recruited or anything, they don't think, or they are to assume that you're not that good, there's no use for you, so you'd most likely get cut. So they just did a lot of movements with it. It was a very painful time to get that knee going to where I wanted it to go. Didn't miss a single practice. I'm still pretty proud about myself for doing that, because there was a lot of times where it was close and I didn't really want to be there, but I told myself that you are going through this. And And fast forwarding through that, we got to the spring football game, the Crimson and Gray game, which is just a scrimmage that audiences can see. The day started, we had a practice actually before the scrimmage that gassed the hell out of me because I was running around more than the average player because I was warming up several players rather than going like one rep and then switching out with someone else. I was in on every single rep. So I was pretty tired going into it. I was nervous because I only started one high school football game, and it was a game where we easily should have won. So that amount of pressure, I didn't know how it was going to affect me. And so the game started, and first quarter went by, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter even went by, and I was even questioning if I was going to get playing time. And so they went to an overtime period where the coaches even went out onto the field, and they just started running plays for the kids like me, the young guys and the walk-ons who needed a lot more training and that were not going to start anytime soon. And so I started playing, and I ran a lot of routes. I made a lot of pretty good blocks. I played okay. I was overthrown one ball where I feel like I could have gotten easily 30 plus yards, which would have been a big deal for a walk-on in a spring game to have something like that happen. I possibly could have gotten a touchdown, but that's also probably me and my ego getting way too high and out of perspective. And then I was thrown another ball on a slant where it was a slant where you can stop early if you find open space, and the quarterback threw it. As I was looking to see if I was in open space, it was just for a second. I looked down and he threw it, and it just hit me right off the shoulder, and I should have caught it, but I didn't. And at the same time, a player on the defense, I think it was the middle linebacker, hit my ribs extremely hard, and I took one play off because I was like, I'm not missing this experience. I'm going back in. So I took one play off because the coach basically forced me off the field, and I played the rest of the spring game. I played okay. So I went home, had dinner with my mother, and then went back to my dorm, and the next day my ribs were in so much pain. I could barely roll in bed, let alone walk and do everything. So I literally hobbled to the training facility. They thought I had either severely bruised ribs, and they even thought, considering how much pain I was in, that I possibly broke a rib. And so they had me do a whole bunch of motions just to stretch it out, and we had one last practice left, and that practice was probably one of the most painful experiences of my life because running and doing all that kind of stuff was just killing me. I could not run full speed. I could run 75% max. And one of the first things that we did was this thing called Bull in the Ring, which is you and another guy, and you just try, and everyone else circles up around you, and you just try to push the other guy out of the circle. And I was one of the first people called to do that day, and that was awful. That pain was excruciating. I couldn't say no to anything. I couldn't say I was injured just for the chance of making it and doing all that. I was not about to lose that opportunity. And so the practice, after that happens, the practice keeps going. We start doing scrimmages. The next day or 2 days after, we had the evaluations where the position coaches would call everyone into the office one at a time and tell them like, hey, this is what you improved on if you were a starter, or for people like me or the people that weren't the best at football. It was where you got told if you were staying on the team or if you were getting cut. And so I walk into my position coach's office, and he sat me down, asked me about my GPA and everything, but he was pretty straight to the point. I was like, hey, we have 2 recruits that are coming in, and we're deciding to not move forward with you. If one of the recruits doesn't show up, we might give you a call, but as of now, we're going to have to basically cut you. Yeah, if you have questions or anything, if you want to transfer schools, I'm happy to give you a good recommendation. He was extremely nice about the process, but it was me getting cut. But yeah, it was a tough pill to swallow. I went back into the athletic dining hall and got some food, even though I don't know if I was supposed to. Went down to my locker, took the gloves, took the shorts. I don't know if I was supposed to take those either, but they didn't tell me not to. And then, yeah, that was that was it. I walked out, and I'm not mad about any of the decisions I made or any of the effort. I have no regrets on what happened. It was a great overall experience for me, and I don't think I'd be where I am now if it wasn't for that. Because after that ended, I needed to find another hobby or another thing to work on with all my free time that I then had. And I spent that time doing Photoshop and things like that, photography, cinematography, and I don't think I would be as good as I am now without that free time, not needing just something to do and something to be passionate about. So I don't have any regrets or anything, which is good. So yeah, that's my story. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know it's a very long one, but yeah, I'll see you guys next time.